Let's meet our three contestants vying for the big bucks.
Big bucks.
Great to see you again, Paul, and to talk with you about this film. Admittedly, been a longtime fan since Super Troopers 2 and Black Klansman, so an honor getting to chat with you.
So funny. Yeah, I love those Broken Lizard guys. They're awesome.
They're so much fun. I've interviewed them once or twice, and they're a blast. Now, talking about this film, I watched it yesterday, and I was just absolutely gripped from start to finish. I mean, Samir's direction, your performance, David's performance, everything just had me hooked. Obviously, Michael and Richard Jewell are not one-to-one, but I couldn't help but have sort of flashbacks of Richard while watching this film, and that Michael and him both had this sense of longing and wanting something bigger for themselves while going about it in maybe questionable ways. I'd love to hear what was sort of the key for you to unlock and play Michael, especially since his life was a little more clouded in mystery than Richard's was.
Yeah, I think if I were to compare Michael Larson with Richard Jewell, I would say that they both have some social awkwardness. They both are highly passionate people, but I think Michael Larson is probably a little smarter and savvier, whereas Richard Jewell is a better human being, for sure. I think Richard Jewell understood accountability and duty in a way Michael Larson never did. But Michael Larson also, I doubt Richard Jewell would have gotten the girl over Michael Larson if they're both sitting at the bar, Michael, for his many quirks and issues, we'll call it, he still managed to swoon women and make money and go on these little adventures until it all came crashing down.
He's a really interesting character, that Michael.
He's got some Frank Abagnale Jr. in him, right? The kid from Catch Me If You Can, that famous story. There's a little bit of that in him.
Yes, and that is actually a great segue into my next question, because he's a character who presents you as an actor this really interesting challenge of balancing, wanting to create a sympathy in the audience for him, but also keep us on the edge as to who he actually is. What was it like for you finding that balance in your performance?
I think Samir and his group that made the decision on me to be the guy, it was very smart of them to cast me, because I do think inherently there's something kind of everyman and endearing about me, though I also am capable of playing buffoons or monsters, as it were, in the case of a Blackbird. So I think it was just great, smart casting. And at the end of the day, I'm playing Michael in a way that's a little low to the ground and humble, and yet he's anything but. It takes a great amount of ego to say I'm doing this for my family, but really, if I were doing it for my family, I'd probably be content with a 9-to-5 job and live within 2 miles of the home, so I see my kids all the time. That's the reality. Is there is not responsibility is not being taken on his part, and he's trying to get his American dream and be his American hero in a way that is very ill-advised.
Ill-advised, to say the least, but it makes for a very interesting ride. You talk about smart casting, by the way, and I love the scene in particular between yourself and Johnny Knoxville, because we have two great gifted comedians in both of you, but then there's such an interesting pathos to that scene as we watch Michael start to let his guard down and open himself up. What was it like working with Johnny on that scene and really finding what the rhythms were going to be for that scene? Yeah,
I'm a lifelong fan of Johnny Knoxville. The show Jackass was a massive inspiration to me growing up, and then I've seen him take on other serious roles, and he's really good. He did a movie called Sweet Dreams for my buddy Lige Sarkey, and I thought he did a tremendous job playing an addict who runs this, softball team of lovable losers. So with this, it was kind of a weird ask. We weren't sure if he would do it because it's such a small part, but he came to play and he took it really seriously. And it was a nice tender moment or two we had. And I felt it while we were doing it. We both really cared a lot and locked in. And I think it'll be fun for audiences to watch him do that rather than get, punched in the testicles or something that they're used to seeing him do.
It is interesting to watch him take on the more reserved talk show host role in lieu of some stunt heavy role.
Yeah, I think I prefer seeing him do that. I don't want him to get hurt anymore.
I agree, especially after Jackass Forever. I'm like, okay, let's let this guy have a break.
Goodness gracious.
Now, another bit of casting I wanted to talk about with you working alongside is Brian Garrity, because again, he's someone who brings such a great compassion to his character and his relationship with Michael. I'd love to hear what it was like, finding that dynamic with each other, especially since it seems like he's the, one of the few people on that entire set that Michael is willing to really let his guard down with.
Yeah, he and I had a scene or two that got cut that I wish were in the film. I think it was a pacing thing, and they wanted to dial in on the story and not get too distracted. But I loved working with Brian. I met him socially through Sam Rockwell years back when we did Richard Jewell. And I've always had my eye on him because I think he's a great actor. And when they were casting this role, they had a few names for that made sense. But when I looked at the real guy, I was like, I think that's my buddy Brian Garrity. I think Brian would kill that. Slap a stash and glasses. And they were like, oh, sure. Can you sound like you know him. Can you hit him up? And so, Brian and Damian Young were two actors that I personally hit up and said, I really want you to do this part. Would you mind doing it and come and playing with us in South America where we shot it? But I think Brian is a great actor, and I love the dynamic of him being, that character as a pastor. So there's something, in that pastoral nature of him kind of wanting to make sure I'm doing okay and being sweet, but also being wise enough to have that moment where he says to me, are you doing something wrong? Are you doing something you shouldn't? Like he's not naive either, even though he's sweet. And that was a really fun part for him to play, I think. He
really captured that dual nuance so well, and I loved it.
And played into the hokiness of being like, I know I'm a hokey jokey guy, but this is who I am. I'm not. He wasn't punching down or making fun of him. He was just inhabiting, and I think that's what a good actor does.
I see I'm coming close to time, so I did want to ask you really quickly. One other person that you got to work with who I also love is Patty Harrison, and I love that you are both now part of the MCU. And I'd love to know, did you two get the chance to share any stories while you were working with each other on that? I
love her to death. I think she is so funny. Everything she does, I stop to watch it. And when I heard that they cast her, I was like, dude, game over, man. I am so pumped. And on set, she probably got so annoyed with me. I was always trying to do bits because she's so funny. And sometimes when you're around a funny person, you want to be funny, but she was so game and would do bits with me. And she's probably, I'm trying to think, I think her and Anna Conkle, who I did the after party with on Apple, Patty Harrison and Anna Conkle are the two people who made me break character more than anyone.
That's awesome. Those two are so funny. I've loved Patty since Together. So everything she's done, I'm like you. Every time I see her, I'm like, oh, we got to stop. I got to see what this is because I need to know.
She steals everything she's in. I love her.
And that she does. And I can't wait for people to see her and you and everybody else in this film. I mean, truly, everybody's just firing on all cylinders. So, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me for this film. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Grant. I appreciate the kind words, man. We'll see you soon.
We have a problem. Somebody didn't vet this guy.